this, and we are going to click this.
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
From beautiful Saline in southeastern Michigan.
Around the world at sunskyMysteries.com.
This is the 2009 Top 10 Webcam in the World winner. This is SETV. Get out.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Surrounded by Idiots. My name, of course, is Bill Zam, and we are broadcasting directly from Saline, Michigan, located in southeastern Michigan. Welcome to a new series of emanations from my pie hole designed to both flummox and amaze the audience. First up, we're going to talk about our good friend, the very first guest we ever had on this show, one Mr. Cliff High. Now, we don't care about what the latest verbal defecation coming out of the mouths of the damned media and idiots that supposedly have been elected to some position or other. Our job is to continue being classified as terrorists by the ill-advised and totally wrong central utopian leftist government here in the United Socialist States of America. And how's that for an opening? That was pretty good. I kind of like that myself. At any rate, let's go over here. Pardon me while I do a couple of things over there. And here we go. We're going to go back up here. It appears, from what I understand, that the WebBot report, or the Alta report, has had a direct hit. On Max Kaiser's show, a UFO buzzed the studio in clear view. Seriously, this chick's interviewing Max Kaiser, and a UFO flies past a window while they're doing it. You got to see the video. There's a link in the show notes. Just go over to ussamichigan.com, and you can get there real easily. You can watch it on Kaiser's show. He actually did a special little video about that. It's amazing once you consider how accurate Cliff is right now. And I would invite you to visit the Half Past Human website and listen to Cliff's Wujo commentaries. His latest from June 22nd is more than worth a listen. In fact, I would go as far as saying that your very survival may depend on it because of the information in it. And one of the things that he talks about, and it's one of the things that has interested me, especially from the conversations that I've had with Cliff, and you're going to start hearing, in fact you probably already are, about what they're calling a new subduction zone forming off, I believe it's the coast of Portugal or something. The science idiots that are saying this are worse than wrong. There are no subduction zones. The planet is expanding, as in getting bigger. They are risking the lives of millions of people who might be able to survive by giving them this bad information. It's just bad stuff. Also, this is very, very important. If you've been paying any attention to the Cliff High and his work, as well as his Wujos, and go back and listen to the two previous times that we had Cliff on the show, he broke the news here, right here, on this show, Surrounded by Idiots, about the approaching Ice Age. He said that this year, 2013, would in fact be the year that we first become extremely aware of the new Ice Age. And that has actually happened as far as I'm concerned. Cliff broke the story about the Ice Age that's starting right now. It is related to the global coastal event. Look at all this flooding that's going on. The flooding in Calgary, the flooding in Indonesia, and other places in the world. All of this is part of the global coastal event. It is ongoing, and it is ongoing, and it is disturbing, but we are prepared for it, so we know what to expect. Now, my commentary for this week is about deflation. deflation is when the price of things drops. Over on the show notes, I have a definition of deflation. All you have to do is click on the link and get there. Now, you probably already know about the Fed meeting and all of the blah blah coming out of the pie hole of the Bernanke. This, of course, triggered off the big sell-off on Wall Street this past week, and thus the price of gold, silver, and oil went down, along with other commodities. Not a little, but a lot. So what does this mean? Now, I've been listening and watching all of the experts for about 50 years now. It's sort of a hobby of mine. I don't know why, but I'm really, really bad at investing in the stock market. But I'm really, really good at figuring out what the economy is doing. Go figure. I've got an opinion on this cycle that appears to be starting right now due to the latest talking and actions by the Federal Reserve, in particular the Bernanke. All of this is, of course, dependent on whether or not the powers that be, in fact, engineer some sort of a soft landing of this mess that they've gotten us into. We, as citizens, of course, deserve the actual blame. It's the fault of you and I, because we put these people in power. We allowed these people to be in power. We weren't proactive enough. We have allowed all of this garbage that's happening to happen ourselves. Remember, the government, as it is in place merely at the okay or the permission of the citizens. If the citizens withdraw their permission for this particular form of government, then it will go away, as it always has throughout history. We as citizens, of course, deserve the actual blame because we let them continue to do this and just sit on our fat hind ends instead of firing the whole damn lot of them. Now, you will hear all of the experts say that deflation is bad, really bad, and not a good thing. But that is a mainstream so-called expert opinion. So ask yourself this question right here. How can they say this when prices go down? Remember, inflation is the rising of costs. We see that in beef, poultry, gasoline, basic household supplies every single day. The dirty little secret is that not all prices are included in what is considered inflation. So we, the citizens, know that prices are rising out of control, and the idiots in charge tell the sheeple that it's all good. Deflation, of course, is the opposite, the massive drop in prices, which is what we're talking about right here. Now let's go over to this website right here. This is, in fact, the National Bureau of Economic Research.org, or NBER.org. Excuse me. Had to clear my throat. Good versus bad deflation. Lessons from the gold standard era. Now, this article I have found to be very interesting, and it is very educational. Historically, the negative view of a deflation may be attributed to the fact that deflation has been largely unanticipated. Not this time, baby, because I'm telling you about it right now. The negative view of deflation in the United States, no doubt, was reinforced by farmers who believed that the prices of the commodities they produced had fallen faster than the manufactured goods they consumed. Let's think about that for a minute. In centuries past, even the first part of the 20th century, we were a agricultural society. In other words, the farmers were the main producers of whatever it is that people were consuming. Corn, wheat, barley, hops, pigs, beef, what have you, are considered commodities. And in a deflationary spiral, the prices of commodities, of course, go down. And the price of the hard goods usually stays level or even. The reason why we have the societal view that deflation is bad is because of farmers, because the agricultural society that we lived in. And that is that the price they could get for their corn or their wheat or whatever it is that they were selling into the market was falling faster than the hard goods, tables, chairs, tractors, plows, wood for building, seeds or what have you, did not fall as fast as the commodities. That's why deflation has been considered to be bad, even though in many cases it is not. The negative view of deflation was caused by the view of the farmers. Now, there is a book. It is called Good versus Bad Deflation, Lessons from the Gold Standard Era. This is NBER, that is the website that we are at, nber.org, working paper number 10329. The authors of this are Michael Bordeaux, John Landon Lane, and Angela Redish. They look back at the deflationary periods of the late 19th century. They have found that contrary to conventional wisdom, deflation may be more positive than negative. The researchers work from the premise that deflation might be good, bad, or even neutral. Good deflation, they maintain, occurs when aggregate supplies of goods, say from technological advances, improved productivity, and the like, and computers. Look at what happened to the price of computers. They drop like a rock because it becomes less and less expensive to build the components that make up the computer. Of course, you could also say that, well, Bill, cars are more technologically advanced, but their prices keep going up. That is because of the human component involved in it, because of the unions and the price of the employees and everything else, and the quote-unquote corporate greed, which extends right down to the unions, because unions are, in fact, part of the corporation, as far as I'm concerned. But I always look to the price of PCs, laptops, and things like that. The price of electronics goes down. That is a form of good deflation. Bad deflation occurs when aggregate demand falls faster than growth in aggregate supply. Negative money shocks, for example, are non-neutral over a significant period, such as occurring later during the Great Depression, which would generate bad deflation. Indeed, the authors say such might be the case in Japan today, right now. A neutral impact of deflation, meanwhile, might occur when monetary neutrality holds despite negative money shocks, which is what we are seeing with the Federal Reserve right now and the Bernanke. We all know that here in the United States, our labor pool has dropped significantly. They are taking people, they're not counting certain segments of the population, like the people that have just plain stopped looking for work. They don't count them as unemployed. It doesn't go into the figure. So the unemployment figure they release every month is bogus. It's no good. It's garbage. It's crap. It's shit. Don't even pay any attention to it. You need to dig into the U2, 3, 4, and 5 figures in order to be able to get the real unemployment rate, which is significantly higher. The demand for products falling causes the price of those products to fall. That is bad deflation. See, what I believe that the government is doing right now, the central government, is they are, in fact, doing by increasing the welfare state, if you will. They know damn well that their regulations and rules and laws and everything have caused a significant loss or contraction in the universe of employable people in the United States. What they have done to offset that is they have taken and given these people disability, welfare, what have you, and kept their income as close to being normal for them as possible, thereby keeping up the demand for the products to help control the deflationary cycle. This, sadly, in my opinion, has led to a inflationary cycle that is barely under control. What happens when the Fed stops buying up the bonds and everything and keeps Wall Street afloat is anybody's guess, but I believe it's going to be bad, real bad. The researchers identify separate supply shocks or money supply shocks and non-monetary demand shocks on output and prices. Their analysis is grounded in the model of money supply under the International Gold Standard. This article over at nber.org is very, very interesting. I highly suggest that you go over there and take a look. Now, deflation, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, can have a very dark side. It's because after deflation runs its course, inflation takes place and can run like a wildfire through an economy, triggering hyperinflation where the prices of everyday goods goes up and up and up. We saw a small taste of this in the 1970s when I was a teenager, and we called that stagflation. Deflation is something to watch for, but instead of panicking, take heed and make purchases of long-term goods. Got that? Take heed when you see deflation occurring and make long-term goods purchases that you will be able to buy. And right now you can't buy them because of the high prices. When you're not going to be able to. Let me start over. When you see deflation starting, and it will be very recognizable because all of a sudden the prices on things are going to start to drop. Take heed and make purchases of long-term goods that you will not have to buy or resupply yourself with when hyperinflation or regular inflation hits the economy after the deflation. Dry goods such as rice, beans, noodles, and pet foods. Auto maintenance supplies. Try this. Try using a propane camp stove and stock up on the small propane tanks. Freeze loaves of bread, or even better, store flour, yeast, sugar, baking soda, dried eggs, dried butter, dried peanut butter. Get a dehydrator and hit the farmers markets in the spring and the summer. Store potatoes in a crisper drawer or in a cold storage room in the basement. Buy oatmeal in bulk or boxes and boxes of instant oatmeal, instant milk, instant potatoes, dried veggies, and in the spice aisle of your grocery store, buy spices. Get a membership at your local REI store. That's a camping supply store. They have excellent deals on survival foods. And now what you're saying to yourself, you're thinking to yourself, Bill, the price of stuff doesn't go down. How the hell is this supposed to work? Because in a deflationary spiral, not everything is going to go down in price. Remember the example of the farmers. Their commodities, like their corn, wheat, barley, beef, pork, poultry, things like that. What they can get for it goes down, but the prices of the stuff they need to buy does not go down, which is where the idea of bad deflation hit. Take your savings, which is going to be primarily, I might add, from gasoline purchases, because the price of gasoline is going to go down because that is a commodity. Gold, oil, silver, those things are considered to be commodities, and we have seen the price of oil and the price of gold especially, has been dropping like a rock recently in a deflationary spiral. Just in the past week here in Michigan, right where we live in southeastern Michigan, the price of gasoline has gone from $4 a gallon down to below $3.50. That's 50 cents a gallon in the space of a week. Now, if you budget your family and yourself, you have X number of dollars per week at the $4 a gallon price for gasoline that you had intended to spend. That's $10 on a 20-gallon gas tank right there. So, take that money that you've saved. Instead of going out to Wendy's or something stupid like that, do this. It appears that the President of the United States is calling me on the phone, but I'm not going to answer it because he's on his own. Now, back to what I was saying. Take that $10 that you've just saved on that tank of gasoline that you just filled up in your car or your SUV or whatever, and do something like this. Buy some of these. These are $1 a piece. They are it's instant rice, basically. This happens to be cheddar and broccoli flavored, but when things get really bad and you can't afford to buy food, you're going to be real happy that you took the money that you had saved during a deflationary period, put it into stuff like this. That way you'll be able to feed yourself and your family while still making your bills like electricity, water, natural gas, that sort of thing. So take the money that you saved during deflation and spend it wisely. Don't spend the money on a new television or a smartphone. Instead, buy something that you can really use. Now, let's take a look at somebody else that I pay a lot of attention to, and that is this fellow right here, Wayne Allen Root. This guy is a former classmate of Barack Hussein Obama when they were in college. And you might have seen this at Fox News. This is a copy at his website, rootforamerica.com, rootforamerica.com, Wayne Allen Root. The title of this is called, Why Does Obama Hate Financial First Responders? And believe it or not, it goes right along with what I have been talking about over the past few minutes. Pardon me, once more. The condition that I'll repeat this, the condition that I suffer from causes me to lose my voice at the most inopportune times, which is why we're not really doing live shows right now, because I keep losing my voice at inopportune times, and we have to pause the recordings. It is easy to understand why the United States economy is in crisis and decline. Forget the delusional stock market fueled by the Fed fake money printing, just what I was talking about a second ago. On Main Street, our economy is sick and getting sicker. There are no jobs. 90 million able-bodied Americans are not working. That's almost 1/3 of this country. The workforce participation rate is at the lowest rate in decades, the lowest percentage. The rate of business startups is at the lowest in decades. Food stamps, disability, welfare, and Medicaid are at record highs. We are facing an economic disaster. Why? The answer is found in how we treat the heroes of our economy. And Wayne goes on to say that, like the first responders that you see every day, your firemen, your policemen, your paramedics, they run towards the gunshots. They run towards the fires, towards the car accidents, while the rest of us run away. They are the first responders. Who are the first responders in the economy? Our economy relies on first responders too. They are financial first responders. They are the business owners, investors, job creators, and the taxpayers. That's you and me. We are first responders. They risk their financial lives just as policemen and firemen risk their bodies. They run towards a crisis. Just like our first responders, they are willing to risk their life savings on nothing but a business idea, which is stunningly amazing. They even risk their own money in the midst of an economic crisis. Unlike the people that get $20, $30, $50 million from the government and then a year later go belly up. That's not the type of business that we're talking about. Obama famously said during the last election cycle, "You didn't build that," to business owners. We all remember that. That statement could be the most ignorant ever uttered by a president of the United States. The truth is the exact opposite. Nothing could get built by government without the risks taken by business owners. The reason we have roads, highways, bridges, airports, schools, and hospitals is the tax dollars paid by the financial first responders. In other words, we would not have a hospital if it was not the companies making the supplies, the tools of the healthcare trade, and paying taxes on them in the first place. You wouldn't have the roads built if it wasn't for business owners and taxpayers. The government doesn't create money. The government has no income of its own. Its income relies on you and me and small business owners. It doesn't poof into existence, despite what the Bernanke thinks. It just doesn't happen. It's insanity, to be honest with you. So, anyways, that's all I'm going to say about the economy. Let's move on to something even less interesting. And that would be Russ Tice. Now, you've heard of Snowden, the Edward Snowden, the NSA whistleblower that has gotten us all to this point in our country's history. And remember what I've been telling you for the past 2 years? Make sure you wear your hat and your sunglasses whenever you go outside, so the drones, facial recognition software, will not be able to spot you. That's exactly what I've been talking about, folks. Exactly what I've been talking about. Russ Tice, a former intelligence analyst and Bush-era NSA whistleblower, claimed Wednesday that the intelligence community has ordered surveillance on a wide range of groups and individuals, including high-ranking military officers, lawmakers, and diplomats. That story comes to us from The Blaze, theblaze.com. And there is a picture of him right there from Wikipedia. Russ Tice, a former intelligence analyst and Bush-era whistleblower, claimed Wednesday the intelligence community has ordered intelligence on a wide range of groups. He says they went after, and I know this because I had my hands literally on the paperwork for these sort of things, they went after high-ranking military officers. They went after members of Congress, both Senate and the House, especially on the intelligence committees and on the armed services committees and some of the judicial branch. Now, take it, things suddenly became clear for you right there just a second ago. Just think about this for a minute. Let's think about that statement for a minute. Over the past couple of years, we've seen a lot of these senators and congressmen all of a sudden get up and say, I quit. I'm not going to run anymore. Why? Why are they doing this? It's not like they've worn out the usefulness or they're getting too old. All of a sudden they're all quitting so that they can spend more time with their family. We've had some amazingly really weird court decisions where you would think that X judge would not make X decision, and they do. It's been really bizarre. And now we find out from this Russ Tice guy that they have been doing surveillance on these people, high-ranking military officers. Why are all these military people, these generals and whatnot, all of a sudden getting dismissed or quitting? What the hell's up with that? They went after members of Congress and the Senate. All these senators and Congress people are quitting. What if they... It's like somebody all of a sudden found some dirty little secret of theirs and they agreed to quit for some reason. He went on, but they're after other ones too. They went after lawyers and law firms, all types of lawyers and law firms. They went after judges. One of the judges is now sitting on the Supreme Court. That is a quote from Mr. Tice right here. They went after judges. One of the judges is now sitting on the Supreme Court that I had his wiretap information in my hand. Now remember, this has gone from conspiracy to fact, okay? We've been called conspiracy theorists, nutcases, idiots, the government's not spying on you and everything else. Now we're getting people coming out of the woodwork that work for the government that are risking their lives, like this Tice and the Snowden guy, that are telling us, yes, indeed, they did. They are stacking the entire social, legal, and government structure of the United States of America in their sick, twisted vision of what they think it should be. And here's the big one that he talked about in this article at theblaze.com. And again, go over to ussamichigan.com, look up the show notes for this episode, and all of the links are in the show notes right here. Here's the big one. In the summer of 2004, one of the papers that I held in my hand was a wiretap of a bunch of numbers associated with a 40-something-year-old wannabe senator from Illinois. You wouldn't happen to know where that guy lives right now, would you? It's a big White House in Washington, D.C. They went after the current president of the United States. Think about that for a couple of minutes. And I can tell right now what they're doing is they're getting out their little heart attack gun and getting ready to shoot me with it again for saying stuff like this. But, hey, that's the way it is. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And let me see here. We're going to go there and go back over here and back to the show notes. Sorry about that. There is a video and an article about what he says. Now, you will recall a while ago I was talking about the Keystone Pipeline. And in my opinion, and you guys know me as a fairly conservative guy. I'm not a left-wing progressive nutcase like some people are. I am relatively conservative. I appreciate and partake in the capitalist society of the United States of America, unlike some people I know. And it has been my opinion that the Keystone Pipeline is a giant, epic fail, a total farce. And as far as I'm concerned, that's what this thing is, a farce. Now let me bring you up to speed. The pipeline will cut through the United States and enter what is called a free trade zone. The oil will be refined and then sent out of the country. Now, I was talking to somebody on Friday during the day, and we were talking about the travesties that masquerade as modern life and the various bits of bullcrap that we have fed each other every day. And the subject of the Keystone Pipeline came up. And as it turns out, I didn't think he would be up on this subject. But we agreed on 100% on this. Absolutely saw things the exact same way. And we don't always see things the same way. He always tells me that he doesn't pay attention to politics because it's too depressing. And I say, hell, it makes my life look that much better when you consider how crappy the politics, the economics, and everything else in this country are. It makes me look that much better. So I don't think it's depressing at all. The pipeline that we're talking about, the Keystone Pipeline, is a pipe dream that is useless. In other words, there is virtually no benefit other than a few jobs. The tar sand oil will not stay here. It will not be sold here. It's not very often that I agree with a leftist rag like Think Progress, but in this case, I certainly do. I see no benefit whatsoever to building the Keystone Pipeline, and as much as it pains me to say this right from the bottom of my heart, and because I agree with this Think Progress place, it makes me feel like I'm rooting for Darth Vader all of a sudden. Let's go over to their site, Climate Progress. And the name of the website is thinkprogress.org. That is thinkprogress.org. And they have a fact check article. This is by Anthony Swift, policy analyst for the Natural Resources Defense Council. I wonder if they have any drones, the Natural Resources Defense Council. Sounds like they ought to have drones and stuff. Anyways, one of the most important facts that is missing in the national debate. This was actually from 2011, by the way. So it might seem like these articles that I'm talking about today are dated, but they are not. They are exactly on target, because we're going to start hearing about the Keystone XL pipeline again in the near future. Mark my words. One of the most important facts that is missing in the national debate surrounding the proposed Keystone XL tar sands pipeline is this: Keystone will not bring any more oil into the United States for decades to come. Canada doesn't have nearly enough oil to fill the existing pipelines going to the United States. Keystone would divert Canadian oil from refineries in the Midwest to the Gulf Coast, where it can be refined and exported. Many of these refineries are in free trade zones where oil may be exported to international buyers without paying U.S. taxes. And from Canada's perspective, the problem with existing pipelines is that they all end in the U.S. Midwest and allow only one buyer, the United States, to be the single buyer. And remember, under their plan, energy costs would necessarily skyrocket. Now, let's take a look at this right here, because this ties in to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is these free trade zones, because this is important. Because as you hear the Keystone Pipeline starting to work its way around on the old treadmill of politics again, you are going to need to know what the hell a free trade zone is. And here's what happens. The Keystone XL pipeline will go into a free trade zone and be refined at a refinery there, loaded up on tankers and sent abroad. Now suppose, listen to this, and all of this is tax-free, by the way. They don't have to pay taxes on any of this. So we see no benefit from it other than employing people to maintain the pipeline. That's it. It's the only benefit we get from it. It's a free trade zone. There's no U.S. taxes there. Okay? Got it? Good. If that refined oil from the Keystone Pipeline, they refine it into gasoline in the free trade zone, and it comes back out of the free trade zone, guess what? You got to pay tariffs on it as an import. In other words, it's treated as an oil tanker that came over here from Saudi Arabia. That's how it's treated. So let's talk about these free trade zones. This is despicable, and you need to know what a free trade zone is. Let's go back over here. This is right here from globalresearch.ca. Globalresearch.ca, the Center for Research on Globalization. And this is a fact sheet from the ACLU. Another group I don't agree with very often, unfortunately. Today appears to be the day that I'm agreeing with people that I don't agree with. U.S. Constitution Free Trade Zone fact sheet. This is from, as you can see right here, October 23rd, 2008. That's how long this stuff's been sitting in my craw. Here's the problem. Under the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and taking the free trade zone, and we're talking about the free trade zones now, okay? And this is part of it. The Fourth Amendment of the Constitution says that the American people are not generally subject to random and arbitrary stops and searches. The border, however, has always been an exception. Therefore, the long-standing view is that normal rules do not apply. For example, the authorities do not need a warrant or probable cause to conduct a routine search. What is the border? The United States government now considers the border to be a 100-mile strip that wraps around the external boundary of the United States. As a result of this claimed authority, or authorita, individuals who are far away from the border, American citizens traveling from one place to another in the United States, are being stopped and harassed in ways that the Constitution does not permit. The Border Patrol has been setting up checkpoints inland on highways in states such as California, Texas, Arizona, and at ferry terminals in Washington state. Typically, the agents ask drivers and passengers about their citizenship. Unfortunately, our courts so far have permitted these kinds of checkpoints. Legally speaking, they are quote-unquote administrative stops that are permitted only for the specific purpose of protecting the nation's borders, even though you're up to 100 miles away from said border. Now, is it allowable? Is it even legal for the government to do this, to set up a 100-mile wide strip that wraps around the external border of the United States? And here's where I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next, because I could go two ways about this. So let's just go over here on this one right here. This is originalintent.org. Okay, this is originalintent.org right here, restoring the republic one citizen at a time. Originalintent.org. This is a website about the original intent, what the founders intended when they created this country. You need to send your kids there. You need to send your kids' teachers there. You need to send your neighbors there, your wife, your mother, your father. Even your dog and cat should go to this website and read their articles. They are highly educational. When one reads the writings of the Founding Fathers, there is little doubt that the Commerce Clause, as applied between the states of the Union, remember, back there at the Supreme Court decision about Obamacare, and remember what Mr. Tice said. See, all this is tying together, isn't it? Remember what Mr. Tice said, that one of the people they were spying on is now a Supreme Court judge. The Commerce Clause came up in the debate at the Supreme Court about Obamacare. And remember, it was one of the key linchpins in the decision to allow Obamacare to continue, the Commerce Clause. It also has to do with the free trade zones. All of this ties together. When one reads the writings of the Founding Fathers, there is little doubt that the Commerce Clause, as applied between the states of the Union, was to be used for little more than ensuring that what we would call today a free trade zone. That limited role, quite rightfully, where the federal government's authority in interstate commerce should end. Any reach of authority beyond that, envisioned by the men who wrote the Constitution, should be considered unconstitutional. The first real exertion of substantial federal power under the Interstate Commerce Clause came with the advent of the railroads in the mid-1800s. The power and money that came with complete control over such a powerful industry as the railroads was not lost on Congress. To this very day, Congress maintains absolute control over the railroads through regulation. Euphemistically speaking, a railroad company can't blow its nose without congressional approval. Beginning in the early 1930s, Congress started exploring how to expand its interstate commerce authority. Remember, the railroads were so nice they decided to do it twice. The Congress started exploring how to expand its interstate commerce authority. The U.S. Attorney General started to argue new expansive interpretations of the Commerce Clause. This same thing that's going on today with the Attorney General, Mr. Holder, began to argue new expansive interpretations of the Commerce Clause and was generally unsuccessful until the late into FDR's last term. During the end of the 1930s, we see federal courts begin to broaden the government's authority by adopting a new standard in which the U.S. could exercise alleged constitutional authority in any matter where the issue was affecting interstate commerce. This was a dramatic shift. The deeper implications of the court's ruling is that the U.S. now had the authority to act as a shepherd over the vitality of interstate commerce. Obviously, that was not the intention of the Founding Fathers. Which brings me to the last article in this. This is from zerohedge.com, and this one actually comes from this year, February 9th, 2013, by Tyler Durden. goodbye Fourth Amendment, Homeland Security affirms suspicionless confiscation of devices along the border. Slowly but surely, the administration is making sure that the U.S. Constitution and its various amendments become a thing of the past in the name of national security. Let me skip ahead and go down here. This, in fact, is a map of the free trade zones. You can see the entirety of the state of Michigan is in a free trade zone. The Upper and Lower Peninsula. All of Florida is in a free trade zone. Most of California, Oregon, Washington, all along the East Coast, Charleston, Portland, they're all in free trade zones. That is 66% of the United States population. An attempt to take away a population's one recourse to defend itself against a tyrannical government. The time may be coming to say goodbye to the Fourth Amendment, the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. Now remember, their attempts at circumventing and destroying the Second Amendment go along with this, because once they start doing mass searches and seizures, people aren't going to like that. There's the possibility that the people of the United States may seek redress from the United States government in order to stop them from doing that. So, what have they done? They have made it impossible to buy ammunition for the guns that you have, thereby temporarily circumventing the need to destroy the Second Amendment. But, as I talked about in my last show, Vice President Bite Me has been running around yapping about how this fall they are going to have the big push, which ties in to, stay with me here, because I'm tying all this together, along with the United Nations Treaty on Small Arms, that ties into this, along with this free trade zone brouhaha, reduction of the Fourth Amendment, reduction of the Second Amendment, as well as some other aspects that we are going to be seeing coming this in the near future. This also includes our good friend Agenda 21, the sustainable environment thing from the United Nations. All of this is all tying together. All you got to do is step back and take a look. I am providing that to you as a free service. The Department of Homeland Security, which secures the nation's border, in 2009 announced that it would conduct a civil liberties impact assessment of its suspicionless search and seizure policy pertaining to electronic devices within 120 days. Doesn't this sound familiar? More than 3 years later, the DHS Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties published a 2-page executive summary, and that's all we got. And before this becomes yet another red versus blue screaming festival, we don't need the conservatives and the liberals screaming at each other over this. The fact is that this all started under President Bush, and Obama liked it so much, he decided to do it too. He said, this is great. Man, I can really screw with this country. According to the legal precedent, the Fourth Amendment, the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, does not apply within the 100-mile border that you see here on your screen again. Does not apply. So one has to ask themselves, that's 66% of the population of this country that the Fourth Amendment does not apply to, including me, and probably you, because 66%, that's a lot of the country. One has to ask themselves, what other constitutional protections do not apply within that free trade zone? And now you see the pure evil of the free trade zone and the idea of the executive and lawmaking branches of the United States government in grabbing this power for themselves that should not exist under the founding documents. We can just add that to the list of garbage they are trying to shove down our throats. And that is about that for this show. However, and I might break up this this next little bit right here, pardon me. Might have to break up this next little bit into an individual mini episode of Surrounded by Idiots, or as we like to call it around here, talking to that kind of people. But I've been, this has been on, believe it or not, this has been on the script for, a better part of a month, and I keep not getting to it because I haven't even gotten to the first story of this episode. I haven't even gotten to the first story. I don't even know how long we've been on the air. We've been on the air probably close to an hour again. But I wanted to talk to you about the powers that be. And the powers that be often refer to the government. But here in the industry that I have found myself in, the conspiracy industry, which is rapidly turning into the truth industry, because many of the conspiracies have turned out to be true. So we will accept your apology forthwith and immediately. Thank you very much. The powers that be in the conspiracy world use progressive tactics against the non-world view holders, or people that require secondary sources before pulling the trigger on the belief that a positive view is correct. In other words, there are some people that they want a little bit more proof than just saying so, or one article that uses a super secret source. First, what they do, when this happens, when you're a person that says, I need a little bit more information on this. First, they isolate you from that particular group. And this includes email blacklisting, account deletion from whatever site that you're on, and the ever popular, watch out for this person emails. There's something wrong with this guy. Don't pay any more attention to this guy because he wants to see actual secondary sources about this stuff, and that's not going to happen. And in the case of some shows, contacting future guests, because what you have to do when you're doing a show and you have guests on the show, you have to publicize it through press releases and whatnot. And what some of these powers that be in the conspiracy world do is they pay attention to the shows and the people that are on the blacklist, so to speak, and they begin contacting the show guests that are scheduled to appear in the future. And they convince them to back out of the show. In the past, way in the past, if you go and look at our archives from the first few weeks of the show, we had that happening. I had that tracked down to one particular individual that I had instructed never to contact me again because I didn't want to deal with his drama. Second comes the distortions wherein stories are told around the internet campfire that are never true, but they contain the small nugget of truth. That, of course, is designed to destroy the credibility of the person that they are seeking to destroy. And lastly is the ever-popular defamation gambit. The last one, in my opinion, is in fact what is called tortious interference, which is in fact a felony. The good news is that most small broadcasters like myself don't pursue it. We don't, whatever, be gone with you. See ya. Sometimes we name names, but most of the time there's no real appropriate venue for doing that other than turning it into a hissing and spitting contest like we see frequently between various show hosts and industry members. In other words, if you pay attention to the world outside of the Matrix, what they do is they use Rule 12 for radicals. Now, Rule 12 for radicals is this. This is Saul Alinsky right here. This is what the leftists, the progressives, the left-wing nutcases that are controlling the country right now do. You pick the target, you freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. You cut off the support network, isolate the target from sympathy, go after people and not institutions. People hurt faster than institutions. In other words, you don't want to hit the person's institution, you want to hit that person directly. However, all groups, all organizations have their own powers that be. The ones I'm talking about are in the fringe group of the behind-the-scenes controllers in the conspiracy world. The den mothers of the community that has suddenly gone from nutcase, the government is watching you, to the forefront of seemingly clairvoyant future seeing. Sadly, these same people are still yapping on their Google, Yahoo, and Skype chats instead of on something secure, instead while they talk about how the places like Facebook are fronts for the CIA and NSA because they don't particularly like how it works or how it's presented. Instead, they still use things that are quote-unquote spying apparati for the NSA and the CIA and the FBI and the rest of them. They pick and choose what they like. And it's usually because they don't like one part of the visual structure of the thing or another. Trading safety for graphics is never a good idea, ever. So, part of that means that we all need to be secure. We need to use encrypted chats and things like that. Now, one of the things that I've learned since getting into this line of work is that there is blackballing going on, attempts to control behavior, constant advice to bug out now because some event that never happens, and my personal favorite, website membership punishments. In other words, there's no free speech. You see it our way or you're gone, period. That's the way these people operate. There's no free speech. In other words, they're doing exactly what they're talking about other people doing that they don't like. What they're fighting is actually what they are doing. You see, in the world of the shit hits the fan, powers that be, Planet X is always around the corner because I've seen it, and that train going by is moving some mysterious military cargo. The next earthquake is the big one, and oops, here comes another pole shift. The sad point is that there is, in my opinion, real things that are happening right now that need to be researched. Sadly, the latest doomsday crowd is in a target fixation situation. Another favorite of the powers that be in the conspiracy world is accusing someone of doing something they didn't do, which has actually happened to me twice in the past 2 years. And doing the same old emailing and instant messaging of the words of advice about the accusee. Then, of course, right after that, there is the mystery of the sudden silence as those words of advice are spread about, that you can no longer be trusted because you dare to do due diligence and research just like we're supposed to. Every week, I do research into subjects that simply do not pan out or are fabricated from the start. I still hear from people that do not do the simple work of research. All this means is that you need to be careful. Not all shills are, or disinformation artists are government paid. Some of them do it for free. Many of the presumed behind-the-scenes misinformation artists are in fact mercenaries of the highest order. Once you enter into this world as a business model, you will find out that there is a population out there that wants to have you believe that if you conduct a business, then you are a sellout of some sort. I firmly believe that this is because with a business model, you have advertisers and sponsors. These sponsors and advertisers do not like to do business with anyone that does not do due diligence and research. One before its news story or blog post does not make the story true, and advertisers know this all too well. The powers that be in the conspiracy world have no interest in actual fact-finding or real research. What they're doing right now is lining up the next prophecy. Some are doing it to make money. Each doom scenario creates cash via fear. Some are doing it for purposes of control. Once you have a certain number of people fearing an event and having them to look at you as the source of information and a way to avoid the doom, then you control both the conversation and whatever group of people are involved. And some are doing it out of being victims of purposeful information that isn't true. The next prophecy, the next event of doom, is rapidly approaching. When it doesn't happen, they will reset to the next cycle of doom. It's all very depressing and requires massive amounts of the adult beverages and narcotics to deal with it. Sadly, I no longer do either, and now I get to hear we like the old Bill Zam better. To which I say, tough shit, welcome to Realville. If you don't have the facts behind your stories, I will not cover it, talk about it, and I will take the people that send it to me to task over it, or at least try to enlighten them. At any rate, that's it for this episode of Surrounded by Idiots, and if you excuse me, I have to get busy and upload this to YouTube so that, once again, I can start working on my YouTube ban. See ya.